I mean, I love football, to the death. That's all I wanted to do. Eventually, when I made my debut at 17, it was a dream come true.
A lot of guys that I've spoken to, obviously, like yourself, have played at the top level, talk about wanting more off the back of success. And that's something that you just said there, that, I've been involved with the first team and now I want that feeling again. What was it that, that drove that feeling of ultimately, once you've been in the first team, quite a lot of guys, as you've probably seen in your career, can say, that's enough, like I've cracked it, and take your foot off the gas. And the very successful guys like you managed to have a bit and want more. What does that feeling look like?
See, a lot of people have different ways. So mine was obviously, like I touched on before, was just express myself. I mean, I love football, to the death. That's all I wanted to do. I watched every game that was on. Played Football Manager. That was me. Some people have the talent but don't apply themselves as much as they should have done, and some people are a bit too professional. And we had a young kiddie at Southampton, a French boy. And he was very professional, did everything to the letter: stretching, hydration, nutrition, training. But ultimately, he didn't have quite enough of that talent to take him to the next level. So, it's not always making sure that you put 100% in everything, because you still need to have that that little spark going forwards. But for me, when I made my debut at 17. It was a dream come true. But to be fair, there was a few of us. It was in the cup, and we all got called up. So I think I was still obviously with, I was 17, so I was still with the under-17s, but playing really well, and I was scoring. So when I got called up, it was excitement again. I never really put pressure on myself, and when I do, things always go wrong. So I just kind of take it as it comes and do the best I can do.
How did you ultimately realise that, as you're speaking about there, that putting pressure on yourself went wrong? What happened for you to gain that opinion of it?
It'll be a few times when we'd be training, and I'd want to do everything. So my position was being a winger, and back then it was how many crosses can you put in for the strikers to score? How many times can you beat your man? All of those kind of things. And then when you train with the first team, you're looking at same midfielders who, unbelievable technical and can receive and pass. And you start thinking, I want to do that as well. So in training, I start to try and do everything, and, it goes wrong. And I'm, managers shouting at me, what are you doing? I'm like, but they don't want to hear that. They want to know that they want you to do what you're best at. The rest we can work on. So again, I think those were the few defining moments for me that thought, okay, just, put those to the side. Obviously, still kind of try and learn in your head, but make sure you're doing what made you get there in the first place. Again, it would be trying to cross it a certain way that I just can't do. And then when it came to the games, then you're trying to implement way too much information in your brain, and it's not coming out properly on the field.
So just trying to simplify what you were doing, that managed to help you? Yeah,
100%. Simplify. I mean, I seen when John Stones came back playing with Man City, and, he's scoring those goals. And I seen Michael Richards, who's a good friend of mine, he was saying how he just stripped everything back, went back to being simple but effective. And as a footballer, you want to be able to have everything in your, in your toolbox. You want to, zing the ball, you want to ping it here, you want to do this, you want to volley, but not everybody can do, that. A lot of people are good at that, and the rest are others. So yeah, literally it was just, stripping it back. And I knew I had the pace. So that was what I was headed for, and that's what I used to obviously try and propel me to the next level.
So using some of these guys, obviously, that you played with during that period of time as an example, we spoke about a little bit before. These guys, and talk about Walcott and Gareth Bale. Gareth Bale in particular is one of the world's finest ever footballers. Could you see during that time that he was going to emerge as that, and what sort of stuff was he doing to allow himself, do you reckon, to reach the levels that he has done?
Yeah, no, I say this is a story I like to tell people, because especially with the younger boys now, I want them to understand that, you know, your development comes at such a different time. You know, Theo, for instance, didn't start playing football until he was about 12, I think. You know, for Southampton, 12 or 14. And then you had Gareth Bale, always had a great left foot, but physically, you know, he was tall. You know, he was a bit gangly. You know, he hadn't grown into his body as such, and I'm a year older than him. So when he was coming into his to live at the lodge as a YTS, they said to him, you know, we're going to keep you for the year on trial kind of thing and see, you know, how you developed. And obviously he just kicked off from them. But you know, it's always hard for I think for coaches or anyone to see, yeah, he's going to be, you know, the best, or he's going to be this, because everybody develops at their own rate, you know. Some quicker than others. You know, we had a kiddie that, I think from the age of, what was it, 12 or 14, they tried to tie him down, you know, to a contract. And by the time it got to that stage to go and, you know, be a professional YTS, everybody had gone past him, you know, so he ended up, you know, not playing for Southampton. So, you know, like I say, you all develop at different times, and Gareth was one of those ones. And next thing you know, he just grew into his body, he got powerful. He was always fit, but never had that pace that you see now, you know. And then from then on, it was just, superstar in the making.
I'm going to move on from those sort of youth team days, mate, if I can, and after establishing yourself in the first team for a long period of time, in July 2008, you sort of had a challenging time with a bit of a contract dispute, and something that I've read about, and it's something that I wanted to touch on a little bit, just because supporters and fans and players don't really get access to something happening like that. And obviously that you were playing at such a high level at the time, and were sort of not included in any pre-season friendlies. I think there was something else that you were excluded from, you know, from the first team in the public or something like that. And I really want to know, or just get an insight into what that feels like for a player, because these are the sort of stuff that people don't really see.
Was that at Southampton?
At Southampton,
yeah. So that was, again, you know, when you're younger, you know, you turn into a man, everything's going on, you know, you got your football, but obviously you still got, you know, a bit of social life. And, you know, being in college, you make friends with other people, and when you go out and about, you just want to go have fun, you know, and then drink comes into it, alcohol and all the rest of it, partying, and nobody's there to not rein you in, but to just make sure that, you know, you're not going off the wrong path, kind of thing. And I think I had an injury that I was coming back from, and I think I still should have been in the boot, but, you know, I put my shoes on because somebody said, "Oh, you're coming down." Kano's, you know, down. I think it was in Portsmouth. So I ended up going down there, you know, having a good time and whatnot. And after the show had finished, I think a few of these guys who I have no idea who they were, you know, they started taking things from this room, and by guilty by association, I was there, you know, so I was by the door. Obviously, Bradley Wright Phillips was there as well. And then, you know, I think the next day, Nigel Pearson was my manager at the time, and just called me and said, "I need to come in." Spoke to me and said, you know, showed me and told me what was happening. But all in all, when you obviously no one can see the footage back, but when you see it, you know, you see what's happening. But that didn't matter, because I was a footballer, and so was Bradley. We were the only two that they cared about. They didn't care about anyone else, you know. And it was such a dark time for me, you know, and my family, my mum and dad, you know, because I felt like I let them down. And I eventually moved back home for a little bit, and used to travel down to train while all of that was going on. So yeah, it was really hard situation that I had to come through. You know, I had you know, people, you know, sending me death threats. I had people, you know, hating me and writing stuff about me. And then you know, you think about people back home, you know, all my family members or my friends, you know, do they think that that's me? Because it wasn't, you know. And again, I didn't do anything, but because I was guilty by association, and I was there at the time things were happening, no one cared. And once it's printed out there in the public, that's all they see. So eventually, when I worked myself back into play, when I played at some of the grounds, the abuse I got, from the whole stadium, chanting my name, and you got to be tough, you got to be strong mentally, and I did find it tough. I wouldn't ever look anybody in the eye when I was playing or going up to the games. If I was on the bench and I was warming up, I'd just get so much abuse from the sides, and it's a test of character. And luckily, my mum and dad gave me the tools to make sure that I can overcome anything in my path, which I did, and I just made sure I relied on my my ability and my love for the game, and I just put everything into playing football, which looking back now was the best thing I could ever do, and it turned out well for me, because I could have turned to anything if that was the case, because I was borderline depressed then.